What if I told you that growing old isn't a burden to carry, but a crown to wear? That every wrinkle is a signature of strength, and every silver hair holds a story the world has yet to hear. Stay with me, because this isn't just a message. It's a quiet awakening to the truth you've always carried within. They say youth is power, but what they don't say is that time is the true teacher. And those who have walked the longest roads through heartbreak, joy, failure, and grace hold a kind of wisdom that cannot be bought, borrowed, or rushed. You are not fading. You are becoming. Becoming the version of yourself that sees clearly, loves deeply, and no longer wastes time on things that never mattered. The world may look at aging as a slowing down, but what if it's actually a rising up, a rising into self-awareness, into calm, into quiet power? Oh, when you were younger, everything was about proving you were good enough, strong enough, fast enough. But now it's about knowing. And that knowing has everything. There's a kind of confidence that only comes with years. Not the loud, flashy kind, but the quiet kind that doesn't need to be seen to be real. It's in the way you smile when someone else is panicking because you've seen worse and survived. It's in the way you stay silent in a room full of noise because you know truth doesn't shout. You've learned that people come and go, that the heart breaks and heals, that nothing lasts forever, and that's what makes it beautiful. You've lived through decades of change in the world, in your family, and in yourself. And every one of those changes has shaped you into someone deeper, stronger, wiser. You've earned your place in this world, not by being loud, but by showing up every single day when it was hard. By loving people who didn't always love you back. By giving more than you had to give. By standing back up even when no one saw you fall. That's not weakness. That's not decline. That is power. And here's what most people don't realize, especially those who haven't lived as long as you have. Aging is a privilege that not everyone gets. It's not a punishment. It's a gift. Because to grow older is to still be here, still breathing, still waking up to sunlight, still having another chance to forgive, to love, to say what you never said, to become who you always were deep inside. You still have purpose. You still matter. In fact, now, more than ever, we live in a world that glorifies youth, fast living, instant results. But you've seen what happens when speed takes over wisdom. You've seen how important it is to slow down, to pay attention, to cherish what really matters. And that's why your presence is needed now, not just for yourself, but for the next generation. They need your stories, your patience, your perspective, your steadiness. Because while the world is chasing trends, you've learned to value truth. While others are distracted by noise, you've learned to listen. And while many are still learning how to be human, you already know how to be whole. You see, aging isn't about losing something. It's about gaining everything that truly counts. The ability to sit with silence and be at peace. The courage to speak truth without fear. The wisdom to love without needing to be loved back. That's rare. That's beautiful. That's sacred. Your life and all its chapters has meaning. Even the parts you don't like to talk about. The heartbreak, the mistakes, the regrets. They weren't wasted. They taught you the things you couldn't have learned any other way. How to forgive. How to let go. How to start again. Even when you thought you couldn't. This is your time. Not to compete. not to hustle, but to simply be, to enjoy the fruits of what you built, to give back without draining yourself, to smile more often, because you finally realize how short life really is and how precious every moment still can be. You are not done growing, not even close. Your soul is ageless, and your spirit is just getting started. So the next time you look in the mirror and see lines on your face, smile. Each one is a chapter. Each one is a triumph. And when someone calls you old, don't flinch, because old means survivor. It means witness. It means seasoned with grace, carved by time, and overflowing with stories. You are not invisible. You are vital. You are not past your prime. You are the prime, the essence of what a human being becomes when they stop pretending and start truly living. So walk a little slower. Breathe a little deeper. Speak a little softer, but never doubt your voice. You've lived too long and learned too much to ever think you don't matter. You are a walking miracle. Proof that life is not just about starting strong, it's about finishing with meaning. And as long as you are here, there's more for you to do, more people to touch, more beauty to witness, more laughter to feel, more love to give and receive. Aging is not a problem to be solved. It is a story to be told. And you, my friend, are the storyteller the world has been waiting for. They say, it's too late. Too late to change. Too late to learn. Too late to love again. Too late to matter. But who decided what late even means? A clock may measure hours, but it can't measure courage. It can't measure the strength it takes to keep going when the world expects you to fade. It can't measure the quiet fire in someone who refuses to be forgotten. Let's be clear, just because the calendar has moved forward doesn't mean your story has to end. There is no expiration date on purpose, no age limit on transformation, no deadline for healing. Some people discover their deepest joy at 60. Some fall in love for the first time at 70. Some write their first book at 80. Some find their voice at 90. You see, the real tragedy isn't growing old. It's believing you're no longer needed. But you are needed. Not as a shadow of your younger self, but as the full, radiant, honest version of who you've become. Maybe your body has slowed. Maybe your hands aren't as steady. But your soul has never been stronger. Because now you've seen enough of life to know what truly matters. You know that money can't buy peace, that popularity fades, that real joy is found in the little things, a sunrise, a grandchild's laugh, a good conversation, a silent walk with someone who gets it. You've stopped racing, stopped pretending, and started showing up as you are. And that in itself is a kind of freedom younger people are still chasing. You know now that your value doesn't come from what you do. It comes from who you are, from your presence, from your patience, from your stories that remind people they are not alone, because you've been through what they're afraid of, and you're still standing. They need that. They need you. You are a lighthouse in a stormy sea, not loud, not flashy, but unwavering, a symbol of what it means to endure with grace. Let me tell you this, there are people who will never know the strength it takes to grow old, to face loss and keep your heart open, to bury loved ones and still smile, to feel the ache of time and still choose joy. But you know, you live it, and that makes you more powerful than you realize. So the next time someone tells you it's too late, smile gently and keep going. Start the garden, write the letter, learn the song, tell the story, take the trip, say the words, forgive the past, begin again. Because it's never too late to come home to yourself. You didn't come this far to shrink. You came this far to rise one more time. Not to prove anything, but because life still lives in you, and the best parts may still be ahead. We live in a world obsessed with fast food, fast results, fast decisions, fast lives. But you've learned the art of slow, and that, dear soul, is a rare kind of beauty. You no longer rush through meals, you savor them. You no longer skip conversations, you lean into them. You've realized that presence is the most generous gift you can offer. And you offer it in every smile, every story, every moment. You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room, because you've discovered the quiet strength of being rooted. You've seen enough to know that rushing often leads us nowhere. That the most important things in life cannot be hurried: love, trust, healing, growth. In your slowness, there is depth. In your silence, there is meaning. In your stillness, there is power. Because while the world runs ahead, trying to catch everything, you have mastered the wisdom of letting everything come to you. A warm memory, a child's hand in yours, a familiar old song, a sunset that feels like home. You don't need to chase moments anymore. You become the moment. You don't try to capture time. You bless it. And oh, what a blessing you are. You become a safe space for those who are tired of noise. A calm center in the chaos. A reminder that not everything good has to be fast, and not everything fast is good. You carry stories in your voice, not just facts, but feelings. You speak from experience, not just opinion. You don't interrupt people with your wisdom. You invite them to feel it. And that's the kind of wisdom the world needs more of. Because when you speak, you don't just inform, you comfort, you uplift, you understand. That's not weakness. That's your quiet superpower. And perhaps in this season of life, you've slowed down. But don't you ever think that means you've stopped making an impact. Your very presence, the way you listen, the way you care, it's changing lives. Maybe not loudly, but powerfully. Because the world is noisy, but the heart always hears gentleness. And in you, there is gentleness. Not because you've never been hurt, but because you've chosen not to let the hurt harden you. You've slowed down, not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know what matters now. Moments nabi na peace. And this world, with all its rush and pressure, needs people like you to remind us of what we've forgotten. That life was never meant to be a race. It was meant to be lived. One sacred, slow, beautiful breath at a time. There's a quiet fear that creeps in with age. A whisper that says, you don't matter anymore. You've had your time. Now step aside. But let me say this. That voice is a lie. Because you were never meant to disappear. You were never meant to become invisible. To shrink in your own home. To feel like a burden. To be left behind by a world moving too fast to remember who built it. You were meant to shine. Not in the same way you did at 20 or 40, but in a deeper way. A quieter, stronger, braver way. You see, when you walk into a room, you carry more than just your years. You carry decades of resilience. You've loved through loss. You've rebuilt through heartbreak. You've laughed in the face of storms. You've adapted, endured, held on. And that kind of living does not make you less visible. It makes you essential. You are a walking archive of everything we hope to become. Not flawless, but real. Not perfect, but present. Not loud, but felt. You were never meant to fade. You were meant to be seen, to be heard, to be celebrated. But how do you keep shining in a world that looks away? By refusing to go silent. By sharing your stories even when you think no one wants to hear them. By showing up even when you feel overlooked. By speaking your truth even if your voice shakes. Because your truth has weight. Your presence has power. And your journey has wisdom that can't be Googled or rushed. Every scar you carry is a lesson survived. Every wrinkle is a memory earned. Every ache is a reminder that you've lived fully, honestly, and that you're still here. There are young people right now and desperate for direction, confused by life, longing for someone who has walked the road ahead. And that someone is you. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to show up as yourself. Because the most powerful people aren't the loudest. They're the ones who have survived with softness. So don't dim your light to fit into a world that has forgotten how to slow down and listen. Let them adjust their eyes. Let them learn to see you again. Because you were never meant to disappear. You were meant to remind us all what it looks like to live with grace, to age with honor, and to stay, even when the world forgets how much it needs you. It's easy to think that your story is mostly told, that the best pages have already been turned, that now you're just rereading the past. But here's the truth, friend. There are still chapters waiting to be written. Just because some dreams have passed doesn't mean new ones can't rise. Just because the world told you you're too old doesn't mean they were right. Because the soul doesn't age. The soul doesn't care how many birthdays you've counted. It only asks, are you still willing to feel deeply? To learn something new? To love again, maybe even more freely than ever before. You see, growing older doesn't close the book. It deepens the plot. You've been through the first acts, the uncertainty, the adventure, the heartbreak, the joy. But now comes the wisdom. The part of your story where everything starts to make sense. You begin to understand what was worth it. What you held on to too tightly. What truly mattered all along. And now you have the power to live differently. Not recklessly, but bravely. Not for the world, but for yourself. You can say no more easily. You can say yes more freely. You can forgive not to forget, but to finally breathe. This is your time, not to rush, not to prove, but to be. To write a chapter that's not about success or speed, but about depth, peace, presence. And the best part, you get to choose what this chapter will look like. Will it be the chapter where you start painting again? Or call the friend you haven't spoken to in years? Or finally travel to the place you always dreamed of? Or maybe it's the chapter where you simply learn to rest, to sit in the sun without guilt, to look in the mirror and like who you see, to speak kinder to yourself than ever before. Your story is not done. You're still becoming, still unfolding, still mattering. So don't let the world close your book before it's finished. Don't let the number on your birthday candles decide the size of your light. Because the most beautiful stories, they don't peak in the middle. They bloom right before the last page. And if this message stirred something deep within you, then you're exactly where you're meant to be. This channel, Quiet Mind, Powerful Soul, was created for you. A place where your voice is honored, where your journey is seen, and where every video is a soft reminder that you still matter, you're still growing, and the soul, it's always young. So if this touched your heart, don't let this connection fade. Subscribe now, because the next chapter we write together.